the Black Podcast. I was gonna say Thursday, but today we done changed it up on you. We usually have our show on Thursday, but we wanted to make sure that we got this guest on today, and we just had to have her. I didn't care if we had to have her on a Sunday, and so we're just so glad that everyone is here. Please make sure you do your part and share this video, whether you're on Facebook Live or you are, I'm trying to actually share right now to my page, whether you're on Facebook Live or YouTube, doesn't matter where you're at. Please make sure that you share. I'm one of your hosts, Dr. Sherelle Hobson, and my partner here, Mr. Street. We've been in the game, in the Black podcast game, for a little over a year, and we're just so excited about the opportunities and the relationships that we have built over the last year or so with our guests from different walks, whether it's professional sports or it's in education. But our focus is always about changing the narrative of our young Black males. And that's why we created a company called HSBA.
Yep. And you know how they always mention when you're coming up as kids, it takes a village. Well, we wanted to come together. I was a solopreneur for quite a while. Then I started to learn the importance of partnerships. Came into partnership with Dr. Hobson, saw that our visions were very closely aligned, and we wanted to be able to impact that next generation. Like she's saying, there's so many of us that fall through the crack. We don't have the mentors, the leadership. We don't have those role models to actually exemplify what the potentials are for our future life. So we wanted to be able to put some of those in place to bring the programs to fruition, develop the partnerships and make that happen. We have collectively about 30 years plus in the mentoring, education, leadership space. And we're just looking to bring just continuously bring guests to you that can add to the sauce that we already been, stirring up a little bit. And really be able to position those who are viewers, those who are listeners, to understand that there's so much more that we have to offer than what you may see in mainstream media. So off that note, I'm not going to hold back the lady of the hour. We're going to go ahead and bring her to the front. Dr. Diane Hachett, how is it going?
I'm blessed. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much for accepting the invite. I know that you are a woman who wears many hats and very busy. And so the fact that you took time to be on the Black Podcast, we totally appreciate you for all that you're doing. And we just look forward to learning more about you. We want to make sure that we maximize all our time with you. And we want to always, a lot of times our audience or people that we have inspired or have influence over, they just see like the 30-second pictures, right? And they're like, wow, her life has just been picture perfect. And so we like to always kind of share a little bit of our story, because we know behind every glory is a story. And so if you can just tell us where you're from and kind of the dynamics of your family, where you grew up, that transitioning where you left from, just kind of giving us a little understanding of who you are, a little background.
Okay. I'm from Owensboro, Kentucky. That's in Western Kentucky. I have a big family. My dad lives in England. I have brothers and sisters in England. And then I have brothers and sisters in the United States. And when we're up to me, my family's like United Nations. You pick a country and I have a relative, a cousin, a sibling, niece, nephew, something like that. So we come in all shades, colors, and to me, we're all close. I mean, I have lots of brothers and sisters. I have 30 or so nieces and nephews, and I have 18 godchildren. And so, like I said, my family's big, and they're still young enough to have more and more kids. But I have so many siblings that it all adds up after a while. And so it's good.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a lot. I mean, at least y'all wasn't all in the same house for the most part. I'm like, that's a lot of kids, huh?
There's enough.
I'm sure. So out of all this, your siblings, are you the oldest, the youngest, or are you in the middle?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest.
Everybody's birth dates and everything. Yeah, the connector.
Wow. So how was that experience for you, being the oldest sister? I know for me, with my brother, I was the oldest, just me and him. But I felt a sense of a responsibility for him. I knew that I had to always set an example for the things that he was doing or going to do. And sometimes I even thought I was the mom. And sometimes my mom had to
Yes.
tell me like, you're in charge when I'm not here. But sometimes I couldn't turn it off and on. I just wanted to always be in charge. How was that journey or that experience for you being the older sibling?
Oh, I was like that too. I always felt like I was responsible for them. When you asked that question, the first thing that came in my mind was being responsible, the responsible one, to make sure that they had what they needed. Um, they always, I mean, looked up to me, and I guess more in a way, maybe I was bossy and didn't even know it, because I felt like I remember when we played school or if we played doctor, I was the teacher, I was the preacher, I was the doctor, when we were playing music, I got to be the drummer because I wanted to be the one, it's like whatever, but,
Right.
but
Right. You was making all the calls.
yeah, they're following my lead, whether following blindly or not. I remember telling them once that if they let the dog lick them, if they were sick, it would heal them. They believed it just because I said it. And then they realized my mom's like, "Are y'all
Licking the whole
crazy?"
face. Oh my gosh. That is so hilarious. And they probably look at it now like, I can't believe you let me let the
Oh yeah,
dog
my
lick
sister
my
still she
face.
throws that in my face all the time. Now that she's an adult. But
Wow. Wow. Well, I know one thing that we definitely share in common, and I want to talk more about your journey as far as when you were in high school and you were making that transitioning to college. Where were you at in that space? For me, I was a student athlete, so I was always focused on track and field and getting a scholarship, and that was always my main focus. How was your experience going through high school and then knowing that you were going to transition to college? Did you know that you were going to go to college, or did you have other plans?
no, I was always. It wasn't a question of whether or not I was going to go to college, because that was the message that we heard at school, is that you're going to college. What college are you going to go to? And I was a student athlete as well, but also was focused on like making sure my grades was always. My mom always said, if you don't get your work, that's it. If you can't do your schoolwork, you're not going to do anything else. So I would fall asleep with my books. I wanted to make sure that was taken care of. That was number one. So if you want to do something else, you had to do it. So that wasn't. The thing is, though, that our guidance counselor only met with us one time
Mm-hmm.
our senior year. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, you're kind of on your own to figure out
Mm-hmm.
where you're going. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know that I had like different options that outside of what was being presented to me, because you had that one time you meet with them, so you got to figure that stuff out like on your own. Going to the college visits and things like that, I went with my mom. She took me to stuff like that, and you're just trying to make a call, trying to see where everybody's going, what you think fits right, who can do what. So that I wish that I had more guidance in that area when I
Mm-hmm.
look at that. And so I try to make sure that our kids in my district don't have that same thing, that they have more support and things of that nature, because I wouldn't want that to happen to the kids.
Absolutely. One thing that I always said, like, I've been in education for 16 years, and our students is a little bit different than how, we're kind of skipping over a little bit, but, our students is a little bit different than how we were when we were in school, where we really didn't have to be walked over to the counselors or babied. If we wanted to get something done, we just got it done.
Exactly.
And our students are a little bit different, where people always talk about education is a free opportunity for everybody and this and that, but it's like a lot of our students don't have the I don't know if it's strength or just the motivation or to go and find out on their own. And so counselors now really have to be more involved, because if we're waiting for the students to come to us to ask us questions, you're going to have a small percentage of students for whatever reason. I don't know if they're just more spoiled or they have too much stuff now and everything is on the internet. So you couldn't really, things you can Google now, where before you had to go ask somebody, for help or for college applications and stuff like that. So I don't know where the lack of communication and stuff, were, but I'm glad that you mentioned that as a leader, that we realize that that time has changed, and a lot of leaders in certain positions don't realize that kids aren't doing what they used to do. Just because you have a counseling center or a career day doesn't mean they're going to show up. You have to literally go get them and walk them over. And you probably have to fight with them to go and walk them over. And once they get there, they may find some interest in it. But a lot of times it is always a fight. When you talk about, when you were going into college, were you a first generation? Did your parents, and who else when college were talking about school, besides just the people at school?
Well, my dad went to, he was one of the first ones to get a student athlete to get a scholarship to Murray State. And he was like an all center in football. And so, yeah, he went there. And then he went out of college and went into the military, went into military intelligence in the Air Force. But yeah, he went to college before I went to college.
Oh,
So
okay.
I wasn't the first one.
Okay.
And my mom like took some college classes, but my dad, like I said, he went to Murray State. So
Right. And that's
I kind
similar.
of I kind of want to revisit something you mentioned, as far as the limited amount of schools that you were exposed to.
yeah,
Kind of like what Dr. Hobson just mentioned. Like, kids today, they have the internet, they have access to go and see everything that's out there, but still they're not taking full advantage. I know, Kentucky is not one of the biggest states, as far as population and so on and so forth. Maybe a lot of rural areas, similar to South Mississippi, whereas there's the University of Southern Miss, which is like an hour away. There's Perkinston, which is Gulf Coast Community College, and then there's South Alabama, and all of those are within like an hour away from where our high school was. And that was pretty much the extent of what we were exposed to, like put in front of us, these are your options. And like, what are some of the things that you actually do to make sure that your students see that, yes, you may live here in Kentucky, but you have a potential to go to Oregon State, you have the potential to go to NYU, you have the potential to go to Miami? What are some of the things that you do specifically to expose them to schools that are outside of their locale?
well, one thing is we partner. We are willing to partner with anybody and everybody, and we do like college fairs so they know like the local schools like in Kentucky and things of that nature. But we have like partnerships everywhere, and we're always like, if we have kids that they have to pick a pathway that they want to go to, and so then we're having them do these interest surveys. Well, what kind of colleges and universities can offer those types of things? Well, let's do some research on that. And so, okay, so that means you might not want to go here. We also have a lot of kids who have gone away to college, and they're kind of like showing them, okay, you can come here too. We got kids going to Harvard and everywhere else. And so like, if they can do it, you can do it too, so we're just trying to branch out. And then we present like different colleges that we've gone to, people in our district. And they, like when you have like college day, you're seeing people represent and they come from everywhere. And so then they want to know, where'd you go and how'd you get there? What's your story? And then that reels them all in too. But also like when we do like our partnerships, we have like international schools that we partner with and things of that nature. So they're getting exposed. I want them to understand that there is more to life than Kentucky. There's more to life than Berea. The world is not just here. And so the more we can get them exposed, the better it is. And so we're constantly letting them research things and figure out ways to loop them in with people from other places, other parts of the state and the country.
I love it. And I love you mentioned international as well. I was studying in Costa Rica back in 2011, and there was actually a high school student that was there studying with us. And I'm like, what? Y'all doing study abroad in high school? And then when I went back to campus and I started to learn more about high school study abroad programs. So I love that you mentioned that, because it's so important for our youth to know that there's a possibility in changing your environment.
Mm-hmm. Especially with our kids, the kids in my district, we have a high free and reduced lunch population, and we have a high special ed population. I want our kids to know that the sky's the limit for them. They can't be held down. If they believe it, they can achieve it. We just got to give them the tools.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. So when you decided to get into education, that journey, you have some teachers that, and like I said, I've been in for 16 years, that are okay with, being a teacher. They love being an educator, and they love it. 30, 40 years. And I used to be like, when people used to stand up and say, congratulations to Mitch such and such, it's her 35th year. I'm like, how is she doing that? And so I knew that when I started coaching and when I started teaching, I knew that there was something more that I wanted to do. I was making such an impact on the little, I guess not little, but within my little circle of influence, like my track girls and things I used to talk to them about. And one thing that I was always known for and ended up going around and speaking to a lot of coaches about and creating a system about was I've always had a 90% matriculation. So I always made sure that my student athletes, and I used to tell them, you commit to me, I'm going to get you somewhere. There's too many colleges out here for you not to go somewhere and have some type of money or resources, some type of help. You may not all be Division I athletes, but I'm sure you can be a Division II. And if we had to just the last resort get you at a Division III where they don't give athletic scholarships, we can get you Pell Grants and other little scholarships and fill out essays, and we can make it work. I just always felt like there's no reason why our students shouldn't be advancing. And I was teaching out in El Paso where the demographics was mostly Hispanic, and then you still had your African American students, but they were military. So a lot of times they were going to be there, but they were also going to be leaving. So you had to deal with them, transitioning during that time. And the more I coached, the more I started becoming like, okay, there's something bigger than what I'm doing right here on this track. Why am I not feeling satisfied? And at the time, people were like, wow, you're a young head coach and you're doing such great things, and you just bought you a house and you got this nice little car. And from the outside, it looked just well put together. But people didn't know that I would go home and I was struggling. I was crying. I was sad because I just felt like there was more I was supposed to be doing, even though I've accomplished all these things. So the Holy Spirit led me to move here to Houston, Texas. And with the passing of my brother and just other life experiences, I started realizing it's something bigger God is asking me to do. And I remember someone speaking over to my life and said, you think you're going to Houston to coach, but you're really going to speak. And I said, I don't like speaking in front of people. And so when I got here, I started slowly seeing that I was pulling away from being a teacher and now wanting to do something to the masses, something bigger than myself. When you're going through that journey of being an educator, at what point did you know, okay, I want to go from being in the classroom to making a bigger impact? How did that journey started, like becoming a principal, an assistant? Did you know you wanted to do those things? How was that journey for you when you decided like, okay, I want to move from the classroom into something else?
When I was a guidance counselor, I was volunteering at night. We had night school kids that were alternative school kids that got kicked out of the day. So they had to go at night. And my thing was, okay, if they're going to be at night, they didn't have guidance counselor at night. And I was like, well, these are kids who need it the most because they're kicked out. There's a reason why they're there. And so they needed that extra support. And then they also, you evolve into other roles while you're there with them. But I volunteered to do that for 3 years. I didn't get paid for it, but I did it every day. And then finally, one of the the other guidance counselor said, you mean you just volunteer your time? Everybody else is getting paid? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, that's crazy. And she went and got that taken care of. She came back in and she said, oh, you getting paid now. And that was like, okay. So then the vice principal comes in and I'm working. This is the daytime. And he was like, you need to become a principal. And I was like, principal, why do you say that? He goes, no, you need to be doing that because at night, I was doing a little bit of everything. I was wearing all these different hats. I wasn't just the guidance counselor. I was coaching basketball. And if the kids got in trouble, I was also the disciplinarian. So if kids got in trouble at night, they bring them in. If I had a game, they had to wait on the sidelines till I got a minute. And then I come over there. If they needed help teaching, like reading class, co-teaching. Oh, I was like responsible for language arts portfolios and things of that nature. There was wearing all these different hats. We also cooked for the night school kids. We told the day school cafeteria workers that if they would leave the food, we would take care of it and cook for them because we wanted the day school kids that had the night school kids that had the same thing as the day school kids. So I was doing all this different stuff. He said, look at all the different things you do. He said, you're being an administrator. You need to be an administrator. I mean, guidance counselors, they called us administrators whenever they thought it was convenient. But he said, no, you need to be a principal. And I'm like, for real? He said, no, seriously, that's what you need to do. And because he was just naming off stuff. You're doing ARC. He just kept rattling it all off. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I told my assistant, the other guidance counselor, and I said, oh, I'm going to take classes and become a principal. She said, why in the world would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that? Well, then to me, that just made me want to do it even more. If you tell me I can't do something or you question it, I want to do that because I want to help kids. And every degree I've ever gotten, it's always allowed me to help more and more kids. And that's all my goal has ever been about. And so that just kind of like, And then I talked to another person and she was like, well, okay, whatever, so I was like, so anyway, I started taking those classes. And so when I got into the principal classes, part of it means shadowing somebody. So I had to go shadow 2 superintendents. So I shadowed one in my home district and one in a different district. And shadowing those principals, I shadowed the superintendents in both districts, and they had 2 different styles. And that one superintendent, just shadowing him, made me decide I wanted to be a superintendent. And it just like hit me all at once. And I said, I want to be a superintendent. I said, what does it take to be a superintendent? And he goes, I said, do I need to get my doctorate? He goes, no, you don't have to do all that just to be a superintendent. I said, well, I think I will. I said, because my mom told me that when you're Black, you got to be twice as good because you're going to be judged twice as hard. So I'm going to get my doctorate. And he was like, you don't have to do all that. I said, oh, yeah, I do. And from that moment on, my goal was, I was a guidance counselor, but my goal was to one day be a superintendent. So I was like I was going to go to the next level first, but I was in the classes to become a principal. And so that was kind of like, at that point, that's when I decided that's where I wanted, the eye was on the prize at that point. And it was just navigating and waiting for those opportunities, trying to make my way, figure out how I could best do that, because it was always about service to me and going to the next level. Because I saw every time I wanted to be a guidance counselor because I wanted to make a difference in kids' lives. But I knew as a guidance counselor, my role was limited to only so much that I could do. And then when I became an assistant principal, okay, I had a little higher level of authority and I could reach more. Mostly a lot of the behavior kids and everything. You have something and you have other things that you get to do. But it's still, I was like, okay, if I'm going to be a principal, I can have even a greater reach. But at the end of the day, I used to want my own school when I was assistant principal. I said, I wanted my own like school where kids could live, kids could stay, and I could like help them along the way to get to where they needed to be. So for me, it was always having a bigger outreach, because I truly saw kids that they didn't need, like when I was guidance counselor, I would call and tell parents this was going on with this kid or that, and they'd be like, why are you calling me? You got them. They're yours. What's up with that? Or they'd call me and say, if you want them to come to school, you better come and get them. And I was like, okay, I'll go get them. So it's like, I had the kids from AM to PM because night school wasn't over to 9 o'clock. And then we would stay and like regular school got over at 3. Night school started at 3:30 and ended at 9. And then we would like plan for the next day about what we were going to do. So really they're at like 11 o'clock. And then I did Friday night school. So I did Monday through Thursday nights, regular night school, Friday night school, and then I did Saturday school for the kids that were in day school that got in trouble on Friday night and day. So and then like the day school kids and night school kids weren't supposed to mix. And so when I was working with kids on portfolios and I had these kids that I knew just needed that extra on top of the night school, but they didn't have enough time. So I'd tell them, if you meet me before Saturday school, or if you meet me before school starts, then we can work on that. And so the parents would bring them because I believed in them, and they rocked it, because if a kid knows you believe in them, they're going to go to the next level no matter what. It's about the relationship.
The choice.
The
choice. Yeah.
I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to let them not do it. That's it.
Right. Right. That is amazing. Now I know what I've been doing wrong. Like, you did 1,000 things. I thought I was doing a lot. You were doing so much. But I'm the same way. I totally agree. People always wanted to just be a coach. And so I knew like your mother. So I said, I want to be an athletic director. I didn't want to go the principal route. So everybody kept saying, be a principal, be a this, be a that. And it's like, that's not what I want to do. If I wanted to change the narrative of our athletes, our student athletes, in particular, our young Black men and women, I need to be in a position where I can make those changes. And I can, and it's unfortunate that we feel that we have to have that doctor in front of us in order for people to take us more serious. And a lot people may not understand that. Oh, you don't need that or you need that, but we need that. We have to have that. And even if we don't need it, it's for who we're serving to see that, wow, you used to be an athlete, you used to be this, and now
Right.
you're a doctor. So it's not for us, it's for them. And so I just really appreciate you willing to go through whatever. We should have named this show Whatever It Takes, because you did whatever it took to make sure that your students were successful. And so we totally appreciate you doing that, and being an example for them. Talk a little bit about the journey, because I know that some people feel like, I know that becoming a superintendent or being in a leadership role as a Black woman is still not an easy journey. Some look at it like, oh, so I could just have to go do this and that and then this and that, and I'm just gonna make it. It's like, no, probably not. So if you can talk to those young girls, um, or boys who are in college that have dreams of becoming, whatever there is, but on a higher level. When you look at a lot of sports now, you don't see too many minorities being, owning professional teams, or you don't see. The higher you get in education, the less you start seeing more people that look like you and I. If you can just talk about what are some of the things and how do we continue to push through, what are some of the most important things that we need? Is it relationships with people? Is it networking? What is it that we have to
All
do
the
in order
above.
to, assist us in that journey? Because we know there's going to be trials and tribulations, but what do we do amongst that journey? Because I think that we don't talk enough about what to do in the process. We talk about the process, but we don't tell people how to continue to be resilient through that process. If you could speak more on that.
Well, for me, prayer is first. You got to have God. You got to pray about it, and God will open the doors and lead you on that path. That's me. I pray about everything I do, but no matter what it is. But you also, you got to have a mentor, different mentors. Each person brings something different to the table and gives you a different lens. Like for me anyway, when like I said, when I was following that one superintendent, he became a mentor to me. The one that I asked, what does it take to be a superintendent? Well, I ended up working with his wife. We were mentors together for 3 years. We mentored high school students from 7 different high schools. And so for 3 years, we formed that relationship. Okay. So then kind of fast forward, it was all about relationships. It comes down to relationships. There was another guidance counselor. Her husband was a superintendent in the district that I ended up getting an opportunity for an interview in. And it's a district that was a rural district. And I remember when I saw it posted, a person that was in my class worked in that district. And I kept looking at that posting and looking at it. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to give me an interview. Because I just kept thinking, I didn't know them, but I kept thinking it's small, it's rural, blah, blah. And are they going to want person of color, they're gonna help me. Well, and she said, I think they'll give you a look. Just go for it. Let's go for it. I'm like, I ain't got nothing to lose. And then he called me in. That being willing to step out is something that students need to know. Being willing to take risks. Don't ever sell yourself short. If you don't try, you'll never know. And then you'll have those regrets. I wish I should have, could have, would have. So just do it, like Nike, just try your best, give it your best shot, put your best foot forward. That's one thing. You got to be tenacious. You got to persevere, and you can't, like I applied for different positions for assistant principal before I became a principal. Door was closed because that door wasn't meant for me. No just means next opportunity. That's what they got to think about. Don't think about like, oh, I didn't get this, I'm not going to ever be in it. No, it just means that was not your president. That wasn't where you needed to be. And just keep on keeping on. Don't ever quit. That's it. Just keep on until you find that right fit. Because I believe things happen for a reason, and you're where you're supposed to be. And so if you didn't get that job, you better thank God you didn't get it, and just keep on. So that's one thing. I think a lot of times young people, they sell themselves short before they even get out of the gate. They don't even give themselves that chance, or they don't know. Let's say they didn't get
failure.
It's like not making the team and getting cut. What if Michael Jordan didn't didn't keep persevering when he got cut, he would have never been what he is today. You got to think about it. What can I do different? When I didn't get selected for a job, I would always ask for feedback and say, well, what is it I could have done different? What maybe in that interview, can you tell me maybe something that I did wrong, or how I can improve? And then meeting with my mentor when I got to be like a superintendent. I remember I went through a minority superintendent program, and that helped prepare me. I had a mentor and a half, and he said, I want you to be able, whenever you get this position as a superintendent, he already spoke it into existence. He said, I want you to hit the ground running, and I want you to be able to take off. So I want you to do now what you will do then. And so having somebody believe in you. On Fridays, we had Black history quizzes. He would give me quizzes and stuff and look up stuff. And like, he was empowering me. He would take me around to places, and he would say, look around, look at this room, look around. What do you see? Yeah, you're the only person of color. That's why I'm bringing you, and I want you to keep coming. And sometimes I would say, oh, well, I'd say, well, there was one person here and one person there. He goes, one. He said, we got to do something about this, But I mean, he believed in me, and that, having somebody that believes in you and that's there for you, and he made me like, from being he calls me his fourth daughter, and so like I became part of his family. But he would push me when I'd bring him something. He'd say, what are you bringing me this for? Is it you want me to coach you? Oh, or he tell me, I'm gonna hold your hand the first part of this year, and then he goes, push you out of the nest. And you got to, and I was like, and when I was like trying to decide whether to go for being a superintendent or to go back to being a principal, he'd say, you can go back to being a principal if you want to. He goes, but you're going to be bored. You're not going to be satisfied because that's not who you are. And he goes, you're ready to go to the next level. He said, but go ahead, because, they're pulling on your heartstrings. Go ahead. But he knew me. And so it's like having those relationships. And then I knew there's different superintendents. I had my home superintendent from the district I was at. He was my mentor, and he could provide me with different things. He understood about finances and different politics and things of that nature. The superintendent that I was in a superintendent internship with for the whole year outside of my district, he let me do all kinds of things. Like, the sky was the limit. He truly wanted me to walk the talk and be able to do things in his absence and with him side by side. Then the mentor who I followed that time that made me want to be a superintendent to begin with, he's the one that told me about the minority superintendent internship program. And then like my mentor when I was in the district, he told me, you want to always remember, you want to be a superintendent. What is it? When I was assistant principal, he knew I wanted to be a superintendent. He said, don't forget, you want to be a superintendent. You need to do X, Y, Z. How long do you think you're going to be here? I'll retire one day, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to come to central office, or do you want to stay where you're at? Think about this. And he would always remind me of my goals. And when he would find out something, he would give me like, I got the first KASA Aspiring Leaders Scholarship. I didn't even know this scholarship existed. My mentor told me. And so he said, I'll write you a letter of recommendation. Well, every time he wrote a letter of recommendation, I seemed to get stuff because he knew how to write. I was like, dang. And so he was hooking me up. He hooked me up with that. And then like when I wanted to do a program for mentoring for kids, he said, I'll do it. I'll sign up. I'll write everything, but you got to do X, Y, Z first. And from him, I learned different things too. Each one of these guys, I had lots of male mentors in my life. But then I have female mentors when I got to be a minority superintendent, that I got to be exposed to more of the female superintendents. And so then I was like, oh, I want to be like them, because I finally had a mentors that I could
mirror.
Yeah. And I was like, and I remember taking a picture with them. It was like 3 of them. A couple of them were superintendents of the year. And I was saying, that's a male superintendent of the year too. Man, the one that's my calls me his fourth child, he was superintendent of the year too. So I ain't taking nothing away from him. But when I saw those female ones, I was like, yes, I want to be like them. I want to be, and and I was like all about it. And so they took us all under their wing too. And so I knew that I could be where they were, if I just kept on, if I listened, ask questions. And you can't be hard-headed too. And you got to be able to take constructive criticism. You got to be able to put yourself out there, be vulnerable. And, like I said, just be real and use your gifts, and everybody's got different gifts. And so like I'd ask them stuff. And so they would guide me, do you think I should try this? What do you think I should do? And so I went through that program as a minority superintendent intern prior to becoming a superintendent. So that helped me. And so for me, I feel that mentoring is huge. So you got to have a good mentor. Sorry, got carried.
No, you're exactly right, and that's what people need to hear. You never stop learning. You always have to have people in your circle that are. I always tell people not to get people that don't support what you do, but support who you are.
Yes,
Because they will always remember, don't forget who you are. Don't forget,
exactly.
like you told them, you can go back to being a principal, but you ain't gonna be happy. And you like, you don't
Yeah,
know me like that. But when you
exactly.
have somebody that can call you and call you out and tell you, like, remember who you are. You're not one that settles. You're not one who takes, mediocre. You're not one that's just gonna do the bare minimum. So why would you continue to put yourself in that situation? So no, as you continue to grow, they're it's like they're just encourage you on and reminding you of who you are within that space. So that is amazing that you talked about the situations and just the power of having a mentor even as an adult and being a leader of a whole district and still saying, I have a mentor.
Mhm.
That's powerful right there. And that takes a lot of courage because some people are afraid to say that.
I
And it
got
takes a
multiple
lot of
mentors.
that's smart, and it takes a lot of humility. I keep just looking down at the title, aim high. Every time you got somewhere, you were looking, okay, what's the next biggest mountain? What's the next biggest mountain? But then
Mhm.
at the same time, you may not even have known what the next biggest mountain looked like. But the fact that you had that mentor in place, hey, check this mountain out. You think you can climb this one? Yeah,
Yes.
I can climb that one. But with climbing that one, I might need to go get this extra credential. Nah, you don't need that. You don't need that extra equipment. No, you don't need it. No, I'm gonna get it because I know what it's gonna take and I know the challenges. And you went, you aimed high, and you dared to be great enough to go and get that doctorate and to just stamp that. Look, see what I did, and then be that example. As Sherelle mentioned earlier, we're not necessarily doing it for us, but we're doing it so that they can see that it's possible. It's possible. I came from similar situations, similar circumstances, similar backgrounds, but I dared to aim high. And the greatness, and I forget where I first heard it, but service to many leads to greatness. So when you go out and you just aim to serve, I'm not looking for greatness. I'm just serving. The greatness is going to come and get you. And we're seeing that that's what's happening to you, whereas positions and opportunities are coming at you left and right because as you continue to reiterate, I want to serve more kids. How can I serve more? How can I serve more? And when you have that internal desire of service, everything else that's meant for you will come and get you. And I see that happening for you. It's beautiful.
Thanks. It's a
Yes.
blessing.
So how is, I know that a lot of times even I can see that you're very hands-on and very involved. The fact that you can get a superintendent and on the camera is sometimes it is difficult getting, to some people. It's like, oh my God, I'm never gonna meet that person. And you don't want it to be like that. I mean, you don't want people to always have full access to you, but you don't also want to be if you want kids to be risk takers and be dream bigger than they've ever desired. Well, they can't do it if you're always in your room. The people need
Yeah.
to see you walking around. So how has it been like motivating your teachers or just, your leaders or other schools to make sure that they're in aligned with what the mission of your district is, or even what you feel is the most important? How are you in that with building relationships with your leaders of schools, and making sure that they're ready to take their school to the next level? Because obviously I know you don't want to have schools that are just ranked mediocre. You want to have the exceptional schools. You want your kids to, even when people say, well, these students over here, there's no way they're going to be ranked, have a report card as an A for the STAR test or the whatever test y'all are taking, but you're thinking, well, why not, you know
Exactly.
and
Oh
so
no,
that
that is
conversation,
exactly right.
I can see you too, like, and why not? So how is that conversation when you're dealing with trying to make sure that we don't sell our kids short and that we're providing the opportunities for them to be great, because they all have the potential to being great. It's just it may take a different journey. Some may take a little bit longer than others. So how do you continue to motivate your leaders of the school to stay on task with that, with excellence?
Well, you got to keep the mission and the vision like in front of them all the time. Like you're always got to remind them that we're about continuous improvement. And so continuous improvement in and of itself, you're never going to settle. You're always going to strive for the next level and to be as high as you can. Excellence is what the quest is for excellence, which means we know we never really get to that level. You just always keep trying to get higher and higher and higher, because it's something that you can always improve on. No matter how great you are, if you're at the top of your game, somebody's going to come and they're going to be just a little bit better. So that means you got to kick it up a notch. You're always going to have to keep going. So we talk about continuous improvement. We talk about personalized learning, the importance of not only personalized learning for our kids, but personalized learning for adults as well, because our adults are the ones who provide the services to our kids and the tools. So you got to fuel them, feed your teachers so that they can feed the kids, and everybody learns from each other and our administrators. And so we're about having an equity mindset and a growth mindset. So you got to be willing to think outside the box and be innovative and take risks, take chances. We know with COVID that things of the past that you thought was going to work or you never thought you could do, you found out you can do it because you had to do it. It was about, being able to reach those kids. And so the virtual options and things of that nature, that's come into play. Basically with the teachers, we've done a lot of PD on equity because we feel to me, it's meeting the needs of all kids, meeting them wherever they are. And so our teachers are really passionate about our kids, and they think of us as a family because we call it Berea community. And so we try to live up to what it means to be a community. And so that's kind of one thing. I'm always talking about teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. They hear it all the time. And the more they hear it and they see it, okay, we're all working together as a team. Like when I'll go to the schools to start the day and go check them out, see what's going on over there. I'll ask the principals to call them up or pop into their office and say, is there anything you need today? What is it? How can I help? How's it going? What's going on? Do you need anything? And if they do, they'll let me know. If they don't, they're good. Okay, life is good. Pop in and out randomly out of classes. So it's no pattern. There's no rhyme or reason. It's I think I'll go in here today or whatever. I'll check this out. Like last week, I was with the kids after school in the after school program, and they were doing, I was just curious of what they were doing. And it was our family engagement team. And they were working on this art project. And heck, I did it myself. I made one myself. And I was like, oh, that looks cool. I want to do it. And they're like, well, come on. And the art lady, she goes, well, I got one extra. It was for social emotional learning. And I'm like, well, heck, we can all work on that. And so I was like, I kept telling the kids I want to learn. So they told me to do it with them. So I did. I sat down. Before I knew it, it's 2 hours. I mean, it was oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be on I said, I got a meeting, I gotta go. I didn't get to do
the one. How important your roles and responsibilities.
I know. I was like, y'all, and they're like, you got to come back next week. Come back. And they didn't tell me what was going to happen next. But I was learning so much, having conversations with the middle schoolers, talking to them about, they were asking me, do you think we need to be here? Are we really supposed to be here? Do you know why? And I said, what do you mean? I said, yeah, we're glad that you're in school. I'm glad you're here. Everybody, matters and all that. And they said, no, do you think we really are here? Are we really real? Do we really exist? And do I matter? And why am I here? And they started having all these conversations and we were talking about stuff. And I was telling them that they're special and unique and they all bring different gifts to the table because they were wanting to compare themselves because they just taken math tests. And one of them was like, well, what score did you get? What score did you get? And one of them was like, well, I don't think I'm as good because my score wasn't that. And they were going on and on. I was telling them they all have different strengths. And when I told them they were unique, one of them goes, nobody's ever told me that before. But it was just having that conversation and just getting with them and seeing what was in their head and where they were thinking. And I had so much fun when I'm with the kids. And I was part of me felt like I was back to being a middle school principal, middle school assistant principal, middle school guidance counselor. I was and then I was then the other part of me was I went to be with the kindergarten, the elementary kids after that. And I was I wonder what they're doing. And so it was oh no, I can't go. I got to go. I got this meeting. I have to keep reminding myself, I got a meeting. I got to go. But just I think talking to the kids, being available to them. I have an open door policy. I have a student superintendent advisory council. And one of the seniors every year helps me plan. And so I met with him and we were talking about what we're going to do next month when we kick it all off. And I have my fourth graders. I talked to the principal about getting me new fourth graders to be on the council because I have representation from elementary, middle school, and high school because I want every kid to know that their voices matter and they're their reps. And so the kids, going to the heart, we're doing an equity audit right now. So we sent out a survey last week to kids and to get their voice about what they think. And then this week, I'm going to be sending something out to our staff and to our administrators, to our teachers, to central office. And then next month, we're going to interview parents and we're going to interview administrators, teachers, and because we're going to follow up and teachers and students because not some people will put stuff on a survey, but they but other people want to talk to you. So we're going to look at it from different lenses, because everybody, when I first became a superintendent, I did what's called listen and learn. And I learned that from my mentor. He had me do that when I was an intern. So then when I became a principal, I did it. And basically I was asking him, what makes Berea special? What needs to improve or change? What's the greatest challenge you face in your role? And how can I, as a superintendent, help you, or somebody from central office, and what makes us great? And so just getting those viewpoints and trying to see people could, when I first got here, I asked them that. And that's where I learned that what was important to our district was safety, understanding kids in trauma. And so I always, whenever we do a PD at the beginning of the school year, I always try to make sure we do something around like social emotional learning or things of that nature, because that was something I learned when I didn't listen and learn was important to our staff. So just kind of getting tuned in and finding out what they're thinking and how we can help, that helps you get that message across about us being a team, because that what they think matters in their voice. I meet with the Education Association president every month before a board meeting. He tells me the concerns of teachers and like the pulse of what's going on. So I get his viewpoint, So I ask the teachers, I ask the principals, but then I also get his viewpoint of what, the lens, because he'll say, well, I can tell you what the soldiers on the ground are saying, and I'm like, okay. And we just had that conversation because I used to be in the Education Association. I used to be treasurer when I was like, it's like kind of funny. You're on one side, and then they said, "Oh, you've gone to the dark side."
Another side.
But it's not. I try. And so with us, he sees that we have a lot of common ground. A lot of times when he is asking me questions, I'll bring up something. He'll be go, "I'm glad you said that because it was on our list." And we just kind of go. And I try to, we work together because it takes all of us to be successful in order to make a difference for the kids. And so for me, it's just like trying to walk the talk. If we say we're going to do personalized learning for students and staff, then we need to make sure we do that. We have this thing called like 3-to-1 supports for our kids. We're going to try to do 3-to-1 supports. Why not do it for our adults? It's just trying to reach out and empower and build capacity.
Absolutely. And there's no better teacher than just being in that space and actually doing. When people can see that relationships is important to you, no matter who you are, building those relationships and making sure that our students take ownership in their learning. Be a part of bringing them in and saying, hey, this is your district too. What do you want to see change? What do you want to see happen? And when they know, because now it's easy to put it back on them when they're not appreciating the things. Hey, you said that y'all wanted X, Y, and Z, right? So now you got it and you're not doing nothing with it. So you can always kind of put that accountability back on them, but it keeps everybody active and engaged in knowing that, hey, we're all hands-on. It takes a village. That means everybody has to be involved. And, I always tell people that our students can only go as high as the person above us. So, the teacher has to be constantly growing. The assistant principals have to be constantly growing. The principals, the superintendents, and the superintendent of the superintendent, and everybody else needs to be growing, because that's how our students grow. And so when we become stagnant and we become complacent with where we're at and what we're doing, so will our students. So I truly appreciate you knowing that, hey, I may have on the suit and these pearls, but I can get down and draw too, or I can go.
I was learning
Don't get it twisted. Yes. So that's what people need to see. And so I truly appreciate you doing that. And that's the reason why we decided to. Brian has a background in social work. And my background has always been, of course, in education and athletics. And so when we became partners, we knew that there were some gifts and talents that we both had that we said, hey, we need to see more of this in schools. So we created HSBA, where it's a mentorship and leadership program where we teach all those skills, self-identity, kids knowing who they are. Understanding the power of their voice, understanding the power of their mind, knowing that they're more than what we always tell them, becoming the person you've never seen, being that person. And that's why we started to create our program, because we knew that we had to not only build our students, but we wanted to have a leadership component to say that, hey, teachers, y'all are not just teachers, y'all are people of influence. And who are you, outside of just being a teacher? Who are you? Where is your desires? Where is that why at? Go back to that place. And so that's why we created HSBA, because we knew that, hey, the only way there's going to be change is if we bring it.
That's right.
And
They get to
so
be the
we are just excited
translators.
about just building the relationship with you and being able to show you and talk to you and learn and hear your journey because, as you said, it takes everybody to be hands on. And it's not just a one stop shop, having just a PD in the beginning of the year. And that's usually what it is in education. You have that one PD, and then you don't even see the people anymore that taught you all the stuff they said you need to learn about into the following year, and you done forgot everything you learned in the PD by the time half the year comes, or you have PDs that aren't relevant, where
Yeah.
half the time those teachers or those leaders can't even use what you taught them in their actual classroom because either the kids don't relate or it doesn't fit the situation or the environment. And so I really appreciate your being a leader who's open to partnerships and knowing that learning is an extensive family, and so we all have to come together. So I appreciate you really doing that.
Thank you. Because we have to.
Yes,
That's the only way to survive and to thrive and help our kids.
that's very true. That's very true. So as we close, if you could just leave us with one statement just to pour into that educator out there, because there's so many educators that. Just a second, please.
Oh, he got them kids in the background.
Yes,
You got to be,
it's like
like the mama in the church, like, you better shut up.
it's
Yeah,
like
read that book.
you tell them, and then they capture it. They got it for a little bit, and then it goes out that other ear, and right
Wow.
back at it. Just one takeaway for an educator on how to most effectively encourage and inspire your students to aim high and dare to be great.
For me, I want all educators to understand that greatness lies within every child. And it's up to us just to tap into that potential and release it. They have the power to do that. Being an educator, I mean, they can change the world one student at a time, but they have to know their student. That's the key, and be willing to push them, challenge them, encourage them. Now, don't hold their hand just for a little bit, but push them out. Like my mentor did, and let you soar and fly. But don't be afraid to let them take chances. And remember that all kids learn different ways, and so you got to make sure that you truly understand. Bring in the cultural aspect of it. Know the whole child. Some kids need that opportunity to. Kids like to write. Some kids are more, well, you got the different styles, the different learning styles. Just be willing to reach out and try crazy stuff. Be risk takers. Nothing is too crazy when it comes to a kid if it's going to make a difference in a child's life. That's all that matters. And
Mm,
have confidence in yourself. One thing I can't stand is for an educator to say, I'm just a teacher. You are one of the most powerful people on earth. You have made a difference in the life of a child. We would not be where we are today, none of us, if we didn't have an educator in our life, because you're the
that's
ones that provide that foundation. So really, you're champions, you're advocates, you're dream makers and way makers, and just thank you for what you do, and never sell yourself short, because you are the ones that kids are aspiring to see. They watch you, they listen to you, and you are the ones that can destroy a child, or you can build a child up. So you can be the dream makers. You're it. I mean, it starts with you. They say our first teachers are our parents. And
hmm
so it starts at the home, and then it continues to go. But for some of those kids, you are the home. You are those parents, and while they're in the school, because they spend more time with you maybe than they do with their parents. Their parents might be working 2 or 3 jobs. Just think about that impact that you are making, and like embrace it, take hold of it. Don't be afraid.
I love
And
it.
that's it. Just aim high.
I
You
love
can
it.
always dare to be great.
That's
Well, you
beautiful.
are truly amazing. You're an amazing woman. You're an amazing leader, sister, daughter. And so we thank you for just being you and doing what you're doing because you're doing it very well. And it has truly been a blessing. And we're all cousins now. Now we're all family. So we will make sure that we stay and continue those relationships with you, because that's a small part of or a big part of what HSBA is about. Is our seniors that come through our courses within college, we get to connecting with real relationships. So now that young man or woman who is in college and now it's their senior year and they have aspirations of being a leader or a teacher, now we can say, well, we know a superintendent. How great would that be for her to come or him to come and shadow and see what you're doing? And we want to be the source or the resources for those students. So that's why we do our part with building relationships with leaders and people of influence like you so that we can pay it forward to our kids who are in the program and giving them some real live people that they can only not only see, but know. And so we thank you for being available and just being very real. And so we just know that you're already doing some great things, but you haven't even touched the surface of what God is going to do for your life and for the district that you are over. And so we thank you for continuing to be a great leader and being you.
Thank you for having me on the show. And like, if you want to connect me with any of your kids, feel free. I just want to do what I can to help kids. To me, all kids matter. I don't care where they live. If I can make a difference, that's what I'm about. So
wonderful.
Thank you.
You're definitely going to be hearing from us.
All right. It works for
me. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all. All the best.
Again. We'll be with you soon.
All right. Take care.
All right. So she was pretty spectacular. I've actually, when it comes to being a leader in the life of students, I've actually got to get this little one of mine to his very first performance at a football game. He keeps coming looking at me over my shoulder. Are we going yet? We're leaving yet? So off that note, guys, this is Tuesday. This is Tuesday. Typically, we say same place, same time next week, but we have a little extra 2 days before our next show. So definitely just keep an eye out on your social media. Keep an eye out on your email. If you're subscribed to our mail out, you'll be getting our newsletter within the next day or so. And we just look forward to continuing bringing this to you on a weekly basis. Like was mentioned earlier, it's been over a year now, and we're just gonna keep on keeping on because
we're gonna keep bringing it too. So you better be ready because we're not stepping down. We're gonna keep going higher and higher. So you can come with us, and you can stay, but please make sure you're still doing your part and sharing these videos. Doesn't matter what time of the day or if you missed a live video, always share the content because you never know who's in your place of circle of influence that you can help. So please make sure that you're sharing these videos so that you can help the next person in our community.
That's it. So we'll see you guys next week, and y'all continue to aim high and